I'm 82 years old, and if I could tell my younger self one thing, it would be this. Stop trying to impress people. Stop trying to look rich, because the biggest mistake of my life, the thing that keeps me up at night now that I'm old and frail, is that I traded my actual, comfortable future just to win a popularity contest I didn't even care about. I'm sitting here, 82 and broke, because for 40 years I was obsessed with the opinion of strangers. 40 years of performing, and for what? An empty bank account and a lifetime of debt I still can't fully clear. Don't make my mistake. It started subtly, decades ago. When my friends bought their first new cars, I had to buy a slightly better one. When a colleague got a new designer handbag, I immediately needed two. It was a sickness. I felt that if my house wasn't the biggest on the block, or if my clothes weren't impeccably tailored, that somehow I was failing at life. I confused having with being. Looking back now, the shame I felt about my true, modest income drove me to financial recklessness. I needed the world to believe I was successful, because deep down, I didn't believe it myself. My first big financial mistake was that monstrous mortgage. We didn't need a 5-bedroom house, but I needed the address. I needed the bragging rights at church and during bridge club. That house swallowed every spare penny we ever earned. We were house rich, but life poor. We ate inexpensive dinners in a designer kitchen. We drove luxury cars to jobs we hated because we needed the payments. Every time I signed a loan document, a little voice whispered, "This is temporary. This is worth the sacrifice." But the sacrifice became permanent. I can remember the thrill of pulling into a party, seeing the admiration in people's eyes as they looked at my jewelry or my husband's watch. That fleeting minute of external validation was my currency, but that currency had an outrageous exchange rate. To maintain that image, I hid the bills from my husband. I lied about credit card limits. Every year the pressure grew heavier, because you can't suddenly downgrade. You can't stop the performance once you've established the luxury standard. It meant decades of sleepless nights, trying to figure out how to pay for the illusion. The irony that stings the most is this. The people I was trying hardest to impress, they were mostly strangers or casual acquaintances I saw twice a year. The neighbors who I wanted to envy my landscaped yard, the distant cousins at holidays, the ladies at the country club. Do you know how many of them call me now? 0. They are gone. They never cared about me. They only cared about the glossy reflection I showed them. I gave my financial security to ghosts, and now I'm the one haunted by the debt. The real cost wasn't just the money. It was the cost to my marriage. My husband, bless his soul, tried to tell me to slow down. He wanted a modest life where we could take trips and spend time with the children. But I always scoffed accusing him of lacking ambition. We fought constantly about money, about the lack of savings, about my insistence on maintaining appearances. We spent the best years of our lives arguing over possessions that we didn't even truly own. We missed out on real joy because we were too busy worrying about the next monthly payment. The Great Awakening came when my husband passed away in his late 70s. Suddenly, the entire performance crumbled. I lost his income, and I couldn't keep the big house anymore. The bank took it. When I finally moved into this small one-bedroom rental, packing up the remaining status symbols, the shame was unbearable. I was 78 years old, starting over, financially ruined, and realizing that none of my expensive possessions provided any comfort or companionship. They were just objects, and they were gone. Today, I am 82. I live paycheck to paycheck off my small Social Security checks. I spend my days worrying if the rent will be raised or if a medical emergency will bankrupt me entirely. This is the reality I purchased with all those fancy labels. When I walk past the retirement communities where my friends live comfortably, traveling and enjoying their grandchildren, the regret is a physical ache. They chose simple contentment. I chose expensive anxiety. I look at my meager savings, and I see the ghosts of all those extravagant dinners and clothes I wore just one time. I've learned far too late that true wealth is invisible. True wealth is waking up in the morning knowing your bills are covered and your future is secure. It's having the time and the health to call your children, not the debt that requires you to work until you drop. I thought wealth was the presentation, but it was always the peace. You can't put a price tag on peace, but I effectively sold mine for the fleeting approval of people who never mattered anyway. I traded security for vanity. The deepest wound is the lack of legacy. I should be able to help my children. I should be able to provide a safety net for them as they raise my grandchildren. Instead, they worry about me. They have to contribute financially to keep me afloat, reversing the natural order of things. This is the ultimate consequence of my life's performance. I became a burden, not a benefactor. All because decades ago, I couldn't handle the thought of someone else having something slightly better than I did. So listen closely, especially those of you in your 20s and 30s, building your lives. Stop measuring your worth by what you accumulate for display. Stop comparing your finances to the curated perfection you see online, or the upgraded lives your friends pretend to live. If you are going into debt to look rich, you are becoming poor. You are mortgaging your freedom. The moment you achieve financial independence, the freedom to choose how you spend your time is infinitely more valuable than any luxury item you could buy. Stop performing. Start living. Save that money. Invest in experiences, in time with your family, and most importantly, insecurity. Find contentment in what is simple and real before you reach my age and discover that the expensive mask you wore your whole life has left you with nothing underneath. I have found peace now, finally, in humility and honesty, but I wish I had discovered it 60 years ago. Please, learn from this 82-year-old woman who wasted her entire life chasing shadows.